97% of water in the world is salt water and only 3% is fresh water locked up in ice caps and glaciers. Glaciers store water as snow and ice, releasing varying amounts of water into local streams depending on the season. Looking at how water moves through the Earth's water cycle helps us understand how it interacts with the environment and how much is available for human use. The world's population is growing and water consumption is increasing, but water resources are decreasing. The world is running out of water, stated Tony Clark and Maud Barlow. They're activists and experts on water issues in their article Water Wars published by the Polaris Institute in 2003. They said that by 2025, world population would increase to 2.6 billion, more than the present day, and water demands would exceed availability by 56%. Nowadays, tensions and disputes between countries are rising due to increasing problems of water scarcity, rapid population growth, degradation in water quality, and uneven economic growth. If current trends continue, we could be faced with a very grave situation. 17 countries are under extremely high water stress, using over 80% of all the water they have each year. According to one study, between 1959 and 2000, there were more than 1,800 international conflicts over water. Generally, water disputes that deal with international commerce like fishing or agriculture are addressed by the World Trade Organization. For example, in the Middle East, the UN runs a program to train water professionals to avoid future disagreements over how water is internationally allocated. Particularly in the Middle East, it's one of the most severe water crisis zones. It's been said that future wars in the Middle East are more likely to be fought over water than over oil. With only 1% of the world's fresh water available to about 5% of the global population, disputes over river basins will be out of control. Primarily in questions are the Euphrates, Tigris, and Jordan rivers. Example, the Jordan River runs along Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Israel, and Palestine. However, Israel has restricted Palestine's access to the river as part of their ongoing conflict. Another example is that of Bolivia's privatization of water. In 2000, water rights in Cochabamba were given over to a private company, which proceeded to raise prices significantly. This caused protests and eventually riots during which a civilian was killed. Eventually, the privatization was reversed. While water availability might be one of the most conflict prone issues the world has to deal with, especially as populations continue to grow while the amount of water continues to drop. Water shortages affect business, economies, and populations, and no country is immune to the effects of running out of water. Now let's go to Egypt. It has ongoing disputes with many of the nine nations upstream along the Nile, which regularly runs dry before it reaches the ocean. Ethiopia is currently building a hydroelectric dam, which Egypt sees as a threat to its precious water supply. This is the latest incarnation of a dispute along the Nile that goes back centuries. Historically, water disputes have been one of the many triggers in broader political tensions. Example, Kashmir. Pakistan and India both claim ownership of the region and the water that runs through it. A 1960 treaty that divides up the coveted tributaries of the Indus River has actually held up well through years. Still, tensions over dams built upstream or diverted water flow have added to the turmoil between the two nuclear armed nations. A 2018 IMF report ranked Pakistan third among countries facing acute water shortages as the Himalayan glaciers that feed the Indus melt due to climate change. Tensions will only rise. Another example of water fueled political strife is in Syria. The civil war in Syria began for a wide variety of reasons, but some analysts argue one key factor was water. Syria is one of the driest countries in the world. A drought from 2006 to 2011 caused 75% of farms to fail and 85% of Syria's livestock to die, causing food and water insecurity. As a result, 1.5 million people, mostly farmers and agricultural workers, moved into cities to find work. The deteriorating economy combined with the birth of the Islamic State group, the spread of protest from the Arab Spring, and other complex factors set the stage for the social that rolled into a civil war in 2011, a war that has led to the death of over half a million people and displaced 12 million people, over half of the population. Now in India, the groundwater feeding the Ganges has decreased by 50%, leaving those downriver facing irrigation and food shortages. 400 million people depend on the Ganges in both India and Bangladesh, which have been fighting over how to effectively divert and divide by this resource since 1970s. finally, the US. The Colorado River supplies water to many large cities in the southwest United States, including Los Angeles, serving almost 40 million people and irrigating nearly 5.5 million acres of land. Thanks to climate change, the increased damming, it also frequently runs dry before it reaches Mexico.